and welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry in here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you're returning, welcome back, Knitting Bestie. I can't wait to catch up with you. In this week's episode, I have a finished Lyon sweater, a pattern by Petite Knit. This is the junior size. It is the fourth one in total that I have made and the second one this year. I'm very excited to share with you some of the details of this sweater as well as some of my reasons for knitting it so many times because it really is a great basic pattern and I can't wait to share that with you guys. I am so excited for some future knitting plans with this sweater off of my needles. I have freed up some space to cast on some new things, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. I also have been experiencing just a tiny bit of that RHINEBECK FOMO. I'm sure you guys understand, especially if you're at home like me, but I'm really excited to dip into that stash of mine and really use that for some of my future projects. So grab your knitting, get cozy, and let's go. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what I am wearing today. I am wearing the Ninilchik Swancho. This is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. It has this gorgeous, huge, deep colorwork yoke, and then you have just a little bit of plain stockinette stitching, a little tiny short sleeve, and it's just a great overall fall sweater. Because I chose all of these very fall colors, this is my go-to pumpkin patch sweater because it is very fall. It also has just enough movement to really be comfortable in that setting, especially in the Portland area. It's not quite cold. It isn't normally too rainy during this time of year, and so just having that warm extra layer is really nice. This is my very first ever colorwork sweater that I knit, and I'm really proud of it. I really think that this pattern was a great beginner pattern. I did use hedgehog fiber. What is it called? Their Tweety. I think it's hedgehog fiber Tweety. And this was their first color before they even did like the black or any other colors. It was just like their standard gray that they did. And I really like it. It is when you first get the yarn, it is a little bit thinner, but once you knit it up, it actually kind of blooms really nicely. And then, so I use that as my main color. And then I played around with a lot of different color combinations and I landed on this one, which is, I'm pretty sure that this gold and this red are a cashmere treats color. It was a fingering weight yarn, so I held it double. And then I think this is a yarn company that's no longer around, the dark brown. But if it is, then it was just a merino based wool, also a fingering weight yarn that I held double. I really enjoyed this pattern quite a bit. I really spent a lot of time deciding where I wanted my color work to land. I didn't want this to look too like Peanuts branded, if you will, but I think that this is okay down here. I was a little bit worried about kind of that aspect of the sweater. I really think that I did a great job, like nothing's puckering in the color work, and I just really enjoyed this. And it's a very like easy to wear, very comfortable sweater. It's like if I want to feel cozy, it's my go-to. I have mixed feelings on it. So I don't know if the Tweety was necessarily my best call, but I don't think it's the worst. I typically don't wear like this light color, and so I was trying to find a way, because I really wanted to use the yarn, that I could use it but not have it like wash me out or have it be over the top too speckled. So I felt like this actually is balanced enough. I do think in the color work it's fine. And I think that the colors that I chose for the color work are nice and bold, and so it does definitely pull some of the different speckles. I feel like you definitely see a lot more of the darker speckles in the yarn, kind of near the darker brown area, and you get a little bit of kind of various colors that I think pop out a little bit more. I really thought, I mean, this was back in the day. I think I made this sweater in 2020, but I think that holding this hand-dyed yarn double for the color work worked out really well because it kind of blended a little bit better than it would have had it not been held double. I think you would have had a lot more, I guess, variation in color, especially like if you look at the gold right here, there's a lot of variation, and in the red there's a lot of pink and red, but you can't tell as much as a whole piece because it's like almost a little bit of a marl. But that's my Ninilchik Swancho, a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. Again, I just really enjoyed making this. By the time that you're done with the color work, which is like the fun part of the sweater, you only have a couple of inches to knit. I think the only thing that I would have changed or done differently is I probably, if I were to make this today, I would have made the sleeves slightly longer. I mean, they're okay, but just knowing me, I like them to be like that a little bit more than this. So maybe an inch or two longer. I probably still have this yarn where I could pull out the edge and do that. It also looks like, wow. It also looks like I not only did a tubular bind off, I did a 2x2 tubular bind off, which is kind of, I guess, I'm impressed with myself because this was my third sweater I've ever made. So I was really going for it there, it looks like. But yeah, I think I would probably just make the sleeves a little bit longer if I were to do this again. I think I probably made the medium size or probably the second or third size for this. I don't remember. I know that it has a large size range, but because it's so oversized, I think there's fewer sizes, if that makes sense, because it's going to be oversized for all the sizes and it's kind of how much ease you want. What else can I say about it? I think that's about it. I really did enjoy making this sweater. Again, it's very easy, very wearable. I wear it with like dark jeans and little riding boots. I have a dark brown suede riding boot that kind of matches this color that I wear with it. And that's kind of my little like go-to pumpkin patch outfit. Okay, so that's what I'm wearing. And again, all the details that I will have for anything that I show, I'll put in the description below. Okay, so I've made now 4 of these sweaters. My first Lyon sweater was a plain color. It was just a 1-color sweater. This is a pattern by Petite Knit, and it has such a cool construction that I'll get into in just a second. But the first one I made was just a plain dark blue, and I used a beautiful DK weight yarn it was a yak blend. So it was very soft. It had a light halo, and it was because at the time I thought we were enrolled in one school that had uniforms, and so you had to have just a solid dark color for sweaters, and so that's why I had chosen that color, and it really wore nicely. I would say the yarn, it accidentally got thrown in the wash and it did shrink up a little bit. I think it was superwash yarn, but it was still shrunk a little. And then my second one, so the color blocking that kind of inspired me was by Laurel Piana. They had an adult sweater that had a 3-color color blocking with a kind of highlighting color, and I thought that was really nice, and so I used that for inspiration to do my second Lyon or Lyon sweater for my second son. And then a couple of weeks ago I shared this one, which still isn't blocked, you guys, but it is my third Lyon sweater junior by Petite Knit. This is in the size 6-7. My previous, I did the sizes size 5-6 last year, so this is size 6-7, and I used Spun Right Round in the colorway Poison Dart and Pop, and I really loved how this turned out. So with having a beautiful variegated and then a solid color yarn, my second son chose another Spun Right Round color. It is called Rumble in Brighton. It's this yellow. And then we had chose a charcoal color, which is called Omen. And then once he saw his brother's bright purple, he wanted something more feeling like that rather than the black, which I do think would have been really nice and very beautiful. But he found in my stash this blue color, which is a one-of-a-kind colorway from Lamb Good Fibers, and it was a fingering weight yarn that I held double for the stripes. And because of that, I was really concerned that I was going to run out of yarn. And I had this much yarn when I realized I was going to need to make a couple of stripes still, so I wasn't going to have enough. So instead of trying to play yarn chicken with this, I decided to switch gears. First, I went to him and asked, do you want this color instead? Which is a blue color that I had in stash. I believe this is a Cashmere Treats color. But this was much more dusty than this one. I feel like this one's a bright color and this one's more of a dusty blue. And so I was worried that that was gonna look really not good. And it wasn't going to look like as intentional. It was gonna look like a mistake. So I went through my stash some more and I found a couple more options for him. I found this very dark blue. So I thought maybe we would just go super dark blue with this. And I still was a little bit concerned for the same reason I was concerned about the dusty blue. I didn't want it to look sloppy or unintentional. So what we came up with, I had a bunch of sock sets, and this is from a sock set from Treehouse Knits. It's her Marigold colorway, and it is like a yellowy orange. And this color is really prominent within the main color, and so I felt like that could work. So this is how it ended. I decided to try to make it look a little bit more intentional rather than a mistake or running out of yarn. I replaced a couple of the stripes towards one of the sleeves and then finished out with a blue stripe. So this is the final sweater. It has its own little pizzazz by having these different colored stripes. I think it's okay. I thought about trying to make the sleeves match, but I don't think I would have liked that. And then, yeah, I could have skipped out on a stripe at the body, which was something I was considering. But I think this is okay. I think I actually like how this turned out. So this is my fourth Lyon sweater, again, a pattern by Petite Knit. So this is a super fun pattern to knit. You start with the back panel and you knit back and forth for about this length of the sweater. So it's just a few rows and you knit this portion of the sweater. Then you stop and you set those stitches on hold and you pick up and you knit one of the shoulders and to probably about here. So you knit just like a couple of inches of a shoulder, a couple of inches of a shoulder on the other side. And then you knit flat for just a little bit longer. And then you pick up around the shoulder and you create the shoulder this way. And then eventually you start knitting in the round once you've got kind of part of the neckline done. And I really love the way that this fits. It has such a nice shoulder fit. This seam really comes like right to the shoulder. It looks so nice. And it kind of, because the shoulder is such a nice fit, I feel like it makes the rest of the sweater look really nice. And this ends up being slightly oversized. It definitely is more of a positive ease sweater, but not in a bad way. It's definitely the way that the kind of oversizedness is in the sweater. It definitely, with wear and as they grow, looks really good. So this is my fourth one. I can't believe it, but I think we're done for a while. I was going to make one for myself, and I think this is what happened last year. I finished doing two, and as much fun as this sweater is to knit, I then am like, I need something different. So that's kind of what happened last year. I wanted to make one for myself. I still have the yarn to make it. Mine, I'm intending on doing just multiple colors and not having a 2-color one, but just a multicolor one. So I really, really, really enjoyed this. This pattern has you do a double folded collar, and the way that you do this is once you're knitted in the body, or how I like to do it, once I've knitted and stopped for sleeves, I'll knit like an inch and then I go back and then I do the neckline, just so that I can, when they're trying it on, I feel like it has a truer fit and I can really get a good grasp of how it's fitting them. And so you then pick up along the neckline. There is a ratio of pickup for the edges of the neck, and then you pick up each stitch for the neck. So it's very well explained. Even if that didn't make a lot of sense to you, it's very well explained. This isn't what I would call a beginner sweater, only because it gives the instruction while doing something. So how I mean this is, maybe you're going to be increasing along your raglan while also keeping track of something else. Or you are decreasing your sleeves, working out your stripes and all that, while also every so often decreasing. This sweater did go by a lot faster. The sleeves went by way faster than the first one, because once I did the first sleeve on this, and you'll even see, this is part of the reason why I haven't blocked this, I marked out each decrease on the sleeve so that it was easy for me to visualize. And so when I was actually doing decreases for this one, once I did the first sleeve, I could see like, oh, I'm gonna be doing I can ignore doing decreases until I get to like my second blue stripe. And then I know I'm gonna have one in that stripe. And I can ignore it until whatever. And so that makes the sleeve go by much faster. What else? I really can't say enough nice things. I'm really excited for them to be able to wear them. I'm going to block these today so that they're ready for this week. Typically in Oregon or in Portland, which is where I'm filming from, it's quite nice weather up until just like the day before or the day of Halloween is when the weather turns and it gets very rainy and cold and wet. And it really, really becomes sweater weather. And it, would be nice for them to have these ready to wear at that time. So that is my second Lion sweater. Again, a pattern by Petite knit. This is the junior size. I had someone reach out saying, oh, I really love this sweater. I looked in my size, and they don't make the sweater pattern isn't small enough for my size. And I encouraged them to go to the Lion sweater junior sizing and look to see if the chest circumference would work for them for the larger sizes in the junior size. And they said that actually would work really well for them. And then you can just keep track of like making sure your sleeves are long enough and your body is long enough if you are having to use the smaller junior size for yourself. So that is also an option. My next one that I've been working on, but much more slowly, I guess you could say, is my Aureliano sweater. This is a pattern by Claudia Quintanilla. She wrote this beautiful book called Making Memories, and it is all about embellishing your knits. And this one, I actually almost want to try this on for you guys because I'm getting to a point where it's kind of possible. Maybe I will do that in a minute. Let's talk about it first. So I'm using La Vie en Amaze, her mohair silk, in the colorway Winterfell, Dire Wolf, I think Fog and Mist. There is another one like Storm. It's 3 grays, and I always forget. I feel like I always say one of the grays wrong, so I will put the actual color names down in the box below. But this is a beautiful colorwork sweater, all over colorwork. You have a nice, beautiful folded collar and a beautiful, just really cute fitting sweater. It's a round yoke. Yeah, it's just so beautifully designed. And because it is all mohair, it's a very lightweight but warm. So it would be perfect to travel with. I like to think of things in terms of like, when will I wear this or where will I wear this? And I think I could wear this in a lot of different occasions. I could dress it up. I could keep it casual. I certainly could travel with it because it is so lightweight. And it won't take up a lot of space in your luggage. But yeah, I really, really have enjoyed making this sweater. I'm halfway done for the first sleeve, and I certainly could have finished this had I not been making the other 2 sweaters. So I do anticipate finishing this very soon so that I can wear it, and I think then it'll be kind of also sweater weather, so the timing will be perfect. But let me try it on really quick for you. Okay, so keep in mind this hasn't been blocked yet, and I'm wearing a funny t-shirt underneath, so we're just gonna have to go with it. But here is my Aureliano so far, and I just think the fit and everything is beautiful. I am considering once I'm done, just because I'm picky like this, depending on how it blocks out, I might go back and redo my bottom ribbing because I feel like it's flaring out just the tiniest bit, and that's more me than the pattern. I think even though I use a smaller needle size, I probably could bust out an even smaller one just to like pull it in, but I'm also going to wait to see what the rest of the body of the sweater does to see if it's really going to be necessary. Because if this comes out a little bit more, which it probably will once it's blocked, then it will probably just all lay straight and be fine. But because this isn't part of the color work, it's kind of already going to do what it's going to do. So that is something I'm going to kind of keep an eye on. But has these beautiful like X color work section, and then I call this kind of like the checkerboard color work section. I did make a mistake when I was first knitting this, and one of these I had to redo because in between the little blocks or boxes I had added a row of the main color, and so it looked larger, and so I had to go back and fix that. But I'm liking it. I think it looks nice. Really, if I wanted to, I bet you this would also be cute. I'm not going to do that. I want long sleeves. But you could certainly make a shorter sleeve version. Like this would be cute. You could do one color work band and then stop. And that would be a super cute sweater. So it's certainly customizable. You can play with it quite a bit. I'm really, really enjoying knitting it. It really is a fun knit. I do have to pay attention a little bit more because it is mohair held double, but it's really been nice. And I think this is like such a great color for me. So I'm sure I will be wearing it quite a bit. I always find Winterfell, which is the main color, such an interesting color because to me, in this sweater, it looks very blue, like a very dark blue. But if you look at the skein, let me see if I can find it. Well, this one kind of looks blue, I guess, to me in this light, but depending on what it's near, I would also say that it kind of can appear to be like a dark teal. It's sort of has some green characters to it, and I really think that it's such a fun colorway. It's definitely one that's been around for a long time. And then here is my lightest gray color. No, okay. Aha, so I was wrong. So this color for the X is Mist. Then we have Smoke, and then Dire Wolf, and then Winterfell is the main color. So those are the colors in the La Bien Aimée Mohair Silk. This is the medium gray. So these two are kind of in a thing together in there. There you go. So those are the colors all together. And I'm just loving how this is turning out. I really need to get it done so that I can wear it. That's what I really need. Okay, quick outfit change and we'll continue on. Another outfit change. One time I tried on something for the podcast and I never like checked my hair. For example, when I was done changing and I had something like sticking out for the entire time. So fixing that. Okay, so now let's talk about, that's kind of what I've got going on the needles right now. Let's talk about what's coming up because I've kind of cleared my needles in a way and I feel like I can now take on some more projects. And so I've been really considering like what is going to bring me joy, what's going to be like the next thing that I'm going to be in love with for a while. And so I decided that I would cast on a beaded project. So a little bit of a background. Before I was super into knitting, I made a lot of jewelry and a lot of beaded jewelry primarily. Some metal, some gems and stuff like that, but mostly beaded. Beaded was where I was like happy. I like little tiny detailed things. I like using beads because I feel like they're a great, if you're interested in getting into that, it's a good entry level, these seed beads, because they aren't too expensive. So I came across this beautiful pattern. It's called Painting with Beads Scarf, and this is by Poppy Vergara. And she has done a sweater. It was a cardigan in one of the pom-pom magazines. I cannot think of the name, but if I can remember, I will post a picture of it. So this Painting with Beads scarf does remind me of her pattern that she did for Pom Pom magazine, which was a cardigan. It had intarsia, and then it had also beading within this beautiful cardigan which is still on my list of like want to make. Most of the main color, I believe, of that cardigan is mohair, or I guess you could use a Surrey alpaca, but it's a lace weight kind of fluffy yarn with bits and bobs of waste yarn, or not waste yarn, but leftover scrap yarn and beads. And I just think it's so cool. This painting with beads scarf really caught my eye, and I should have gone to my bead stash just to check to see if I had any, but I didn't at first. I ran to the bead store because I was inspired and went and picked up a bunch of beads. But then I came home and realized, oh, I had some. So this is kind of both kind of stashes. And I found a lot of really cool beads. These are TOHO beads. You could also use it's like Misuki, or I would have to look, but there's another Japanese seed bead company that does carry like a good assortment of colors, and this is what my local yarn shop had. So these are, you need size 8 beads, which I believe refers to the size of the bead. And so here's some of the ones I got. This is a beautiful like lavender inside with a blue clear bead. They're just fun. There's so many different colors. There's a white with gold. There's a bright green, pink, purple. I have blacks and golds and silvers and greens and yellows. So I'm looking forward to painting with beads, if you will, for this scarf. And I think, so about the pattern, it is a very simple pattern. You need about 270 yards of a DK weight yarn or a lace and fingering weight, which I think I'm going to use a fingering and a lace weight, because I think it will make getting the beads on the yarn easier. If you are trying to get them on with a crochet hook and you're having trouble with the fingering weight yarn, you can just use the lace, and no one will be the wiser. You just slip it on the lace instead of both yarns and you're good to go. So I am really excited about this project. It just was a pattern that I came across that was making me excited to knit. So I wanted to embrace that energy and grab some different beads and things and get excited. I don't know which yarn I'm going to use yet, so that mystery will unfold soon, I'm sure. I've considered doing a black so that the beads really pop. And she does have these sort of like oval shape or half circle shapes on the scarf of the beads, but I might go rogue and just kind of do my own thing. We'll see. Once I get it down, like do a couple the way she says and then kind of do my own thing. I don't know yet. But it's definitely these little like scarflets are really cute and very popular. And I have so many beads now. These ones are pretty. They're like a white pearl. This one is like a gray with a gold center. More pearly ivory beads. So there's a lot of them. I will link my local shop below, so if you're in Portland, you can go check it out. Otherwise, another company that I've used and purchased beads from is Lima Beads. It's just Lima like the bean, Lima beads.com. I'll link everything below. But I've bought from them before and it was a great experience, so I'll share that with you. But I'm really excited for this project. I think it's going to be small. It's going to be a quick little palette cleanser. I'm really interested in knitting more smaller projects and having still a sweater on the needles, but doing just kind of some more smaller projects right now, I think is what's going to like fill me up, if you will. In the past week, 2 weeks, I did make a yarn purchase that I'm going to share with you. So I did purchase some La Bien Aimée Cory confetti. The primary reason for this, I don't actually have a plan, although I did get a sweater quantity for a cardigan, like a nice oversized cardigan. I used the yardage from the Granny cardigan by Joji Locatelli, as well as kind of the champagne cardigan by Petite Knit, because I really like the way that fits. So I knew that if I could find something that would do either, that would be a great call. Joji Locatelli did knit her Granny cardigan in I think just Cory worsted, And so this yarn would be an easy substitute into that pattern. It's the same, it's essentially the same yarn, or very similar to where it will work out. But this Cory Confetti by La Bien Aimée is a really cool yarn. It is 50% Falkland Corriedale, 30% recycled fibers, and 20% La Bien Aimé's recycled threads. So it's definitely a more sustainable yarn, if that's something that you're interested in pursuing. And each one is going to be different. So you really do want to make sure that you have a sweater's quantity. So she's not carrying this color anymore, but there is a gray that is available. There's also a gorgeous like midnight color that's definitely like a dark blue moody color. But this was on sale. So that's why I got this color. And I'm really excited about it. I did, however, realize I do have some kind of tweedy yarn that's in gray. So I am going to think on what I want to make with this, but I don't have to hem and haw over it, I guess you could say. I can kind of make a decision because I do have another yarn. I'm not like hoarding this yarn by any means. I do think I will cast it on soon. I try to, if I'm making a purchase like that, while it is nice to have in stash, I don't like to do big sweater quantities of yarn like that without having a purpose for it exactly, other than I know it's going to be a cardigan, but I do know that a cardigan is going to be on my needles in the near future because it is something lacking in my wardrobe. I only have knit one cardigan so far, and I wear it all the time in the winter, so it would definitely make sense to make one, if not two more this year. So the only hesitation I typically have with those is the purling, which I feel like I'm getting less picky on. Like, it doesn't bother me as much, especially if I have all these little projects where I can take little breaks from the purling. I think it will be just fine. So that's kind of another thing I've been considering and looking forward to casting on shortly. Outside of knitting, well, let's go with this. So in the last episode I had a comment that said from Adrian, would you mind doing a video that includes a walkthrough of your leather needle cases? So I grabbed mine to kind of talk about them today. I am by no means an expert on this. I'm going to share what works for me, and I decided to just grab, rather than only needle cases, I decided to grab my like leather goods that I use for knitting. So, and I will link everything below. On Amazon, I found this awesome leather binder. I use it to keep track of my knitting projects. On one side, I have a lined moleskin, and I keep notes and stuff in that side. And then on this side is a drawing, I guess it's a dot journal. And so I use it to draw. It's like a dot grid. And so I use this side to draw and sketch, and this side is my kind of note taking, and it all fits inside of this beautiful leather case. This one, I think of all the ones I was looking at, was fairly inexpensive, and it fit the moleskin, which is my go-to notebook. And I actually recently, it was very scratched up, and it does scratch, but I just used a leather conditioner, and it completely looks brand new. Not a leather case, not a needle case, but something that I do use in my knitting. My first needle case, this is a pleather, it's not a leather. It is by Namaste, which is actually Delaque. So while this exact one isn't available, Delaque makes this case. It is well made. It has beautiful zippers and a nice pocket on the outside. There is this is where I kind of keep a lot of fixed needles, but not all of them. There is a inside spot where there's these plastic sheaths where you can put needles. Right now, because I was kind of moving things around, I have a lot of just like the containers here because I do need to organize and put them into their spots. But this would be where you could just slide them in. There's stickers that it comes with here that allows you to mark what needles are which. And then there is in the very back this kind of space where you could put either your interchangeable needle tips or you could put double pointed needles here. So it's a great case. It's probably my least expensive one. I believe I got this during like a Christmas sale. They do. I know that Jimmy Bean / Della Q does Christmas sales, so you could sign up for their newsletter for that. But that is when I purchased this, and it's been with me for a long time, and it's really works well. There is like this strap kind of pulls out. It slides on this. This doesn't come apart or anything, but this is just kind of a nice feature where it could lay flat, or you can use it to hold the case. But I like that it zips up, so I can just kind of cram those needles in and just close it and call it a day. But this is like one that would stay home. I wouldn't travel with this by any means. The next case I have, oh man, you guys, I really should have thought of this through a little bit better, but we'll go with it. My next case that I have is TOHO & Co. This is a fixed wallet, and I really like this one a lot. This is probably my favorite needle case for fixed needles. There's several spots for your needles. I have them set out to where I have like my ones and zeros, ones, twos, threes, 4, 5, yada yada. That's how I have it set up. There's pockets on the sides, so I have like a needle gauge in here and a ruler. I typically keep a little scissors in here as well, but it's great. And then I do this, and I don't know that this really matters or not, but this is what I do. So if this was gonna throw in my bag and I had my there's a tiny ruler, there's scissors, and then you just need a darning needle or just like a little needle, I always stick it next to the zipper. Probably don't do this, but also this is what I do. And then put it so that you can zip it up, and it would be like here on the inside. And that's kind of how I keep my needles, or my like sewing needle, if you will. And it works really well. So TOHO & Co. This is, I believe, like tan or saddle. It's definitely aged a little bit, but it still looks really new and really good. Aha! Next up is another Namaste case. So again, Della Q. This one is, again, that faux leather. It has a nice snap, and this is where I keep my crochet hooks. There's like a little, oh man, this is a mess. We'll leave that there. So there's this little kind of insert that goes inside, and I do my crochet hooks there. Then there's a whole just back open panel that I have crochet hooks there. And this is kind of where I keep every crochet hook that I can find. I do tend to use them to do like pick up stitches or fix stitches. And so that is really helpful just to spot it. It's bright red. And I believe they still make those. They might be in more of a canvas material, but again, a great case. Okay, next up is my Joji Locatelli interchangeable set case. This one is really awesome. I used to be a flight attendant, and I would 100% use this one for travel. I think this is a great case because it's so small. It's a tiny, like, wallet size, like a continental wallet size, and it really holds everything that you need. Your cords go in behind your needles, and the needles fit really nicely in here. Like the spaces that they give you per needle really is like a great size. And I keep my extra little like cord connectors there on the end. But it fits a lot of needles. It's really great. I really like it a lot. And it's, I think, awesome for travel. The leather is super, super nice. And I've had this one now for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. It goes in and out of bags all the time, and it looks brand new. So it really withstands the test of time. You, again, could use a leather conditioner if it gets scratched just to keep it looking. Oftentimes, I like to travel with my Notions pouches in these leather pouches, and I purchased these from a local company. Called XO Bruno, and I will link them below, but they make these awesome pouches. They make some smaller ones, but I really like this clutch kind of size pouch for having scissors and darning needles and little stitch markers and just everything you could possibly need in this one little pouch. And last but not least, I have the Thread and Maple leather binder and pages. And I will say, if you're unfamiliar with this brand, they're really nice. I will say the binder itself, you don't need it. It's great. And it's nice to hold all these pages in. But if you were going to get something from them, but you didn't want to spend the money for the binder, you definitely don't need the binder. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So for the binder itself, I keep extra loose fixed needles that maybe I'm currently using, or I just need an extra space because I have so many. It has a nice zipper back pocket to put, again, I have my polishing cloth for my copper needles in that. And in the very back, I have my double pointed needles, a needle gauge and ruler, and then I have my 9-inch circulars on one side. So that's what I keep in the actual binder itself. Now, this is why I'm saying you don't need the binder. It's nice, but you don't need it. So I keep my long Luca needles, copper needles in here, Cypra needles, and you can keep this as a standalone case, and that's great. Like, this is the size of it. It is bigger than the TOHO Locatelli size. It's still really nice leather. You have a space, nice pocket for your cords, which is behind one of the sections of needles. A cool thing about Thread and Maple is you can purchase, I think, these pieces separately. Sorry for the noise. But they Velcro on. So if you grew out of this needles, but you still want to keep the case, you can just get this piece, I think, in different needle sections. Don't 100% quote me, but I'm pretty sure. A nice thing about this compared to some of the other cases is you buy it for the set that you are using. So this is made for this set. And because of that, it has the needle sizes printed on the leather, which is super, super nice and helpful because I'm constantly like having to check to see what my needle gauge is, especially for my other needles. So that's a really nice feature. And it has, like, again, the standalone quality where you don't need the binder by any means. If you just need a needle holder, this is perfect. And I feel like for that price, they're pretty reasonable per page. The other one that I have besides that needle binder is their project page. So this little one, you can select some of the needles that you're using per your project. And then I have a tape measure, darning needles, stitch markers in here, and then you can put more needles here. So if I had a project that I wanted to use my fixed needles, they could go here, or even put a couple of your interchangeable tips and then do your cords over here. So this is a great, again, standalone. You don't need the binder. The binder is nice to have. So that is all of my kind of leather goods that are related to knitting. And I hope that answers your question, Adrian. So those are all the projects I've been working on. That is kind of what's coming up for me. I'm really hoping that I can make some progress on that little scarflet so I can show you guys. If you have made anything with beads, please comment below because I am curious if people are all that interested in knitting with beads. I love it. I've knitted a few things with beads and I think it just adds such a nice little, very subtle sparkle, whereas you can certainly use the beautiful sequined yarns and get a beautiful kind of similar effect. But if you want to kind of test out the waters in the like beaded knitting, I think this is a perfect pattern for that because it is so small and you are doing just little tiny bits here and there. I also am looking for a sweater to cast on. Like I said, I really want to knit, I think, a cardigan because I just don't have as many in my wardrobe. But I haven't just been like, I have to have this. Sometimes I will see a pattern and I have to drop everything and cast it on immediately. And I haven't just had that yet. So I'm kind of waiting for that feeling to show up, if you will. And I think it will. I'm not too concerned. But I certainly don't have like the next project on the needles quite yet. I've kind of went back to my queue and saw some things. So I thought, oh yeah, I do still want to make that. But it's, again, not that like pull. I like to have this, like, I have to have this feeling because it definitely then makes it even easier to like get things done, knit it and enjoy it the whole process. And I feel like when I don't have that, like, I have to do this, then I can drag my feet on the project a little. So that's kind of what I've been considering. As far as outside of knitting stuff, I have taken up a new hobby. I have been watching a lot of Lost while knitting and listening to a lot of audiobooks. And in between my like knitting, when I need to take a break from knitting, I have been discovering lock sport, if you will, which is the art of picking locks. This is to kind of educate yourself on how easy some of these locks are that we use are to pick. And it just uses a different part of my brain. It's a lot like just solving a puzzle. And so that's been really fun and totally, I know, like off the charts in a non-knitting way. But I've had a lot of fun with it. If you're interested, I can give you more information, but that's just kind of what I've been doing as my little like hand breaks and just doing something different with my brain while I'm taking breaks from knitting. Eventually, you guys, we are going to paint the space and it's going to be soon. I'm getting prepared for this to happen and I'm really excited for you guys to see the color I chose. I think you might love it. I think if you like my color palettes, you're gonna love it. That's all I'm gonna say for right now, but I think you guys are gonna like it a lot. Other than that, I do these podcasts every 2 weeks. I'm so sad that I'm not at Rhinebeck right now, only because I see all these people that I love and adore and would love to say hi to, but beyond that, I think I'll survive. I have quite the stash I can knit from. I make these every 2 weeks. Until then, make some yarn magic, and I'll see you then. Bye!